So let me tell you about the Equity Charter. So this is an organisation that's founded by myself and two of my colleagues, Victoria Betton and Hassan Chowdhury. So Victoria is former NHS actually. Her background is in social work, but she's done a lot of work in and adjacent to the NHS in the field of user-centred design and design consultancy, formerly based up in Yorkshire. And Hassan, some of you will already know, he also has a background in social care actually, but he's currently the commercial director for Great Ormond Street and advises many startups in terms of digital transformation, and is one of the most networked people I know within our sector in digital health. So that's us. And the Equity Charter is an organisation which I'll tell you about, but I just wanted to flash up on screen some of the official partners that we're actually working with. So hopefully quite a few sort of logos and organisations you'll recognise from this fantastic list of people that are supporting the work that we're doing in the Equity Charter. So what is the Equity Charter? How did we begin? I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey, really. So about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, in fact, there was a news story that broke in The Guardian, and it was this, and it's quite unusual. This is in the mainstream media, and this is I think at the time, the Tory party's biggest donor made some really vile and disgusting comments about Diane Abbott MP, about her gender, about her ethnicity. And as I said, this was front page news of The Guardian. I think the reason it was in The Guardian is because of his connections to the Tory party. But some of you will also recognise the name and the face in another guise, because this is, of course, Frank Hester, the owner of System One, one of the two largest GP EPR software suppliers, and the second biggest mental health EPR software suppliers as well. So this had huge relevance for us in mental health. And I'm just going to sort of highlight a particular quote, because every time I give this presentation, it never ceases to disgust me, actually, the words that he is alleged to have spoken. It's interesting, he's never denied saying these words. He hasn't sort of come out and admitted it, but neither has he ever denied saying anything like this. And whatever you think about the person in question, the target of the abuse, I mean, having words like that spoken about you and reported about you just on a human level is deeply offensive, I think. So this news story broke on the eve of the Rewired conference last year, 2024. And I don't know about you, but when I heard the news, my WhatsApp was popping off. I was getting messages left and right, everyone really quite shocked at these comments, initially in the various WhatsApp work-related groups that a lot of us are in, of course, these days. So there was a big sort of outcry in some ways, and shock at the nature of the language that had been reported on in the media, and then it went really quiet, and nothing really seemed to happen. But myself and Victoria and Hassan, we happened to be at Rewired. We were so sort of disgusted by the comments, and it was so out of keeping with our values and the values of many of our colleagues, of course, that we couldn't just sit by and do nothing. So what we actually ended up doing on the first day of Rewired is actually squirreling ourselves away in the speakers lounge for a day to sort of take this feeling that we were experiencing, the outrage that we were feeling, and many of the colleagues that we were speaking to, and actually turn it into some kind of statement that said, you know what, this isn't okay with us. This is not something that we want to just sort of hear and then not do anything about, because this doesn't represent us. It doesn't represent the NHS. It doesn't represent the views of the sector. So there was something about this that made us want to take some kind of stand. So what we did is we drafted an open letter. And what we wanted to do really is to make a statement on behalf of the digital health sector to firstly repudiate the comments that had been made, and then secondly to try and do something positive from this horrible instance. So this is the open letter that we ended up drafting, and the three of us worked together on this. This is, I lost track of how many versions of this open letter we ended up drafting, but this is what ended up in the final version. And so we were really delighted that at the Rewired conference, once we drafted the letter, the organiser of the conference, John Hoaxmer, who again many of you will have come across before, he allowed us a platform. So on the second day of Rewired, we took this open letter, we projected it on stage, and we asked for attendees, people within digital health, including the NHS, including the sort of supplier sector, the independent sector, the commercial sector, and those aligned with the digital health sector to sign up in support of the open letter. So we put it up on stage. I spoke a little bit about the background, and we published the open letter on our website. And so we amassed, I think, gosh, over 1,000 signatures from many different organisations in support of those words. And I think it's important to note that, of course, with Frankcaster being such a prominent part of the community and System 1 being so prominent within our sector, it's really important that we wanted to sort of acknowledge what had been said. But actually, it wasn't really about Frankcaster. It wasn't really about System 1. It was not about TPP. It's about actually, this is an inflection point. This is an opportunity for us as a sector to come together and actually make a stand and think about equity, think about the positive that we can take from this. So that's what we did. We got many signatures. And sometimes people ask us, what do we mean by equity? How does that differ from equality? Well, for me, the difference is equality refers to treating everybody the same. But actually what it doesn't acknowledge is that people have different starting points, people have different circumstances that they start off with that are very different. And so what we are actually aiming for is equity, because what that means is that everybody has the right outcome, everybody has a similar outcome or a chance at a similar outcome, not just treating everybody the same, because people need different things. So that is why we named it the Equity Charter, and we were calling for the community to come together in the open letter saying, let's build this Equity Charter that will set out these standards of behaviour. But why is it important? So I guess, you can always make a moral case for equitable practice, and there's also a business case for equity. And McKinsey have done a lot of research around the profitability of organisations in terms of their diversity of their boards and what that means for their share prices. So you can make a business case as well. But really in health, the reason that equity is so important, to thread it through digital health in particular, is that we are all building and helping to create these digital products, platforms and services. And unless we build equity in the work that we do, we aren't going to meet the needs of a diverse community which exists in the UK and in the communities that we serve. So that is why equity is important, because if we don't get this right, we aren't going to build the products that people need. So we had over 1,000 signatures, as I've mentioned, in support of the open letter. What we then did in the July of that year is to convene a summit hosted by the King's Fund. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring a small group of experts together to help us actually build the Equity Charter itself. So the open letter was a rejection of the statement and a call for people to come together to do something positive. Because we got all those signatures in quite a short space of time, that we felt that gave us the mandate to convene this summit in July of last year. So we did. So we invited a small group of digital experts, experts from the world of EDI. We had legal representation there as well. We're very careful, we don't want to libel anybody or get into any hot water. We had procurement experts there as well. So our goal was to try and harness the subject matter expertise of the community in its broadest sense to help us build something that would make sense and would really hopefully lead to lasting change in the form of an equity charter. So that was the summit that we had in July of last year. So really, our purpose when it comes down to it is we are wanting to advocate for equity within the digital health world in particular. Now, we focused on anti-racism specifically, and it doesn't mean that other forms of discrimination don't exist or aren't important. But actually, we are are choosing to focus on this in particular. And we think that all the varying efforts that exist out there to look at other forms of discrimination and anti-discrimination activism, we feel that they're additive. So we're doing one little bit of it, we're trying to do one little bit of it, but that's very much to support other stuff that is going on, and much of what our work will entail will be equally applicable across other protected characteristics as well. So what we all hope to do is, by doing our little bits, we hope to improve equity more broadly. And ultimately, we want to stand up against racism and other forms of discrimination within our digital health sector in which we all work. So we held the summit in July of last year. From that, we took all the learnings, all the incredible feedback that people had given us, and what we did was to come up with 10 draft principles. We then put those draft principles out for consultation on social media, so some of you may have seen it, and following some feedback towards the end of last year, we finessed them, we tweaked them slightly, and we came up with these 10 principles. The other thing that I want to highlight is the fact that under each of these principles sit a couple of actions, maybe 2, 3 or 4 actions. And what those actions do is they give organisations and individuals that want to sign up to the Equity Charter a guide as to how to implement each of those principles. Because we all know that charters like this are tenpenny, aren't they? They exist everywhere. You know, many organisations will have something similar. But what we really want to see is action and change on the ground. So that is why we, along with the principles, have also created some suggested actions to underpin each one of these 10 principles. The other thing I'd like to say is also, this is not a kite mark. So we aren't the equity police. You know, if somebody signs up to the Equity Charter, me, Hassan and Victoria, we're not going to come around to your organisations and kind of wag our fingers at you and just check whether you've done all the actions. They are framed as suggested actions deliberately, partly because we don't have the resource to do that. We are literally just 3 people with full-time jobs and we're doing this in our spare time. But also, actually, we want to create a movement. We want to create a grassroots social movement to actually nudge our thinking and our values in the direction of equity. And that isn't something that always happens purely on a top-down basis. So we've framed it very deliberately as suggested actions if you want to sign up to this charter. The other thing is that, and I mentioned this before, of course, that neither Victoria nor Hassan nor I are EDI experts at all. All we were is 3 people that worked in digital health that felt really strongly and felt really angry about the events of March of last year. And so we sort of convened people, I suppose. But because we weren't experts, we were really keen not to sort of fall into the classic pitfalls when doing this kind of work. And so the charter itself, we have 3 overarching organisational partners. So one is Digital Health, who run Rewired and the summer schools, of course, that people will be familiar with. We are also partnered with NHS providers. So they are supporting the work that we're doing. So the work that the Equity Charter is attempting to do, or we are doing, is being threaded through the board development, the digital board development programme that NHS providers run as well. So they are also one of our overarching partners. And we're also working with Tech UK too. And then apart from those 3 partners, we have at least one organisational partner for every one of these 10 principles. So, for example, FedIP are our official partner for number 1, and we are working with FedIP in terms of how we thread through equity in, for example, model job descriptions or sort of learning objectives for different professions within digital health. The Shuri Network is another organisation that I happen to be involved with. Some of you may know that's another organisation. We support women from ethnic minority backgrounds within digital health. I do their podcast, and the Shuri Network are the official partners for a Principle 5, for example, which is around workforce. So for each of the 2 or 3 suggested actions that I mentioned, we worked with our principal organisational partner to develop an action that would feel meaningful for that principle. So again, this isn't stuff that we are making up ourselves. We've done our best to try and make this a community crowdsourced document or initiative, really, on the basis of expertise within each of these areas. So there is more detail about this on our website, and I've got a QR code and some contact details at the end. But that's how really we've constructed the Equity Charter itself. So we are absolutely thrilled and delighted to be launching the Equity Charter officially at Rewired this year on the first day, the 18th, which quite fittingly is basically a year to the day when the news first broke about the comments. So we are so pleased to be working with Digital Health, who've continued to support us, and to Seven Links with TPP actually in terms of them being a corporate sponsor, to launch the Equity Charter. So if you look at that QR code, that will take you to our website. So do feel free to sign up to our mailing list. I will be chairing a panel on the main stage on the 18th. I think it's 1:30 till 2:15 with a couple of expert colleagues on the panel themselves. So we'll be launching the charter, we'll be getting a take from other people around why equity is important. We also have a stand at Rewired, so do please come and find us and say hello if you're coming to Rewired. And we are also running a workshop on day 2 of the conference. So Victoria Betton will be running that workshop. And then I think in between, on the evening of the Tuesday, Hassan will be hosting an iftar session. So that is the breaking of the fast for Muslims during Ramadan, which is currently in progress at the moment. So you can sign up to attend the workshop and for Hassan's iftar sort of gathering, I suppose, in the evening of the Tuesday. I'm told there'll be free biryani, so if that's a draw, then please do come along and say hi to us there. So that's when we are officially launching, and what we're going to try and do basically is to really infuse colleagues in digital health who may not have thought about the importance of equity before to consider taking this to their organisations for discussion and hopefully adoption. So if you are interested and you're wondering what tangible things you might be able to do, here are 5 things. So you can follow us on LinkedIn and Blue Sky and do engage with us there. If you go on our website, you will find a link to a webinar that we did last year, and we've also appeared on various podcasts as well, just talking a bit more detail about what we've done and our next steps. And if you can tell 3 people about the Equity Charter and spread the word, that'd be fantastic. We'd be very grateful indeed. And I suppose considering adding this as an agenda item for your team meetings to think about what you might be able to put in place in your organisation and your team. So if you look again on the website for the principles, have a look at the actions and some of the things there that might be applicable for you in your context. And yet, please do visit our website. You can sign up for more updates, and we will continue to add to the resources page as well, because a lot of this, we know that there's a lot of goodwill and good feeling. People want to think about this, and the next question is often how? Well, how do I go about this? So that's what we want to also support as well. And this is my last slide. So yeah, it's our website, our email, and our Blue Sky account. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me here as well. I'm happy to take questions.